Olha só. Hey, how's it going, man? You all right?
Yes, I am here. All right.
You okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just traveling, and Florianopolis is it's like 10 miles. Took like hour and a half to go there. Just so much traffic.
Yeah, I can.
But I'm here. I'm in a beautiful beach resort, I guess. So it's all like bright white.
Yeah. Oh, I bet it was. Just telling everyone that we're here, right? And then we can actually start around 7:15, right?
Cool.
All right. So I'll let people know as well in the scientific marketing group. Coolio. Let's see then. People are starting to arrive, and very soon we can start the webinar to talk about growth expansion, Mr. Lincoln Murphy. Tell me, before everyone arrives here, how you like Brazil? How's everything going? How's the weather? Yeah.
Weather in São Paulo was good. Today's a little cold, but it's freezing here.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be nice tomorrow, which is good because I have a workshop, so I'll be inside all day.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But no, I mean it's all good. I almost remembered some Portuguese, so right. that I forget everything. So I just have like it's crazy. It's like I haven't been studying at all.
No. That's
so much pressure.
That's not true. I saw your videos. Like you are starting to get it. You know, like a real good Brazilian accent.
Yeah, but not in like a real life situation where I'm trying to get coffee. The most important thing you can do is get coffee, and I can mess that up pretty good.
Yeah.
No, it's thinking quickly, like coming up. I sort of almost know the answer, and then they get frustrated and speak English to me.
I know exactly what you're feeling. You know, I went to Ireland, like that was like a long time ago, and I didn't speak any English at all. So when you don't speak English and you are hungry, what do? You go to McDonald's because everyone's the same, right? Everywhere is the same. So I go to McDonald's, and I don't know what to ask. They didn't have numbers like they do here in Brazil. So sometimes you go for number 1, number 2, or else I don't know. And then I go there and I say, hey, the only thing that I could read was Happy Meal. So I asked it for, give me a Happy Meal, and then the girl came with a Happy Meal and a very big bear, you know, like, and she gave to me, and she was looking and searching for a kid. And I didn't have a kid, and I didn't know what I ordered. So it was fun. But you see, that's how things go.
Ireland, though, is the only place I've gone where they speak English as the main language.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand them. Like, I understand Brazilians speaking English more, better than I did Irish people. I think they were messing with me. They were like trying not to be understood. But I'm like,
yeah, sometimes it looks like they have like a potato in their mouth. Like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, all good. Yeah, you know, like, so.
Like,
you can't really get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's always fun. I mean, it's even though I've had some situations where I couldn't think fast enough, it's been awesome, and everybody's so nice. That's the thing. It's like nobody yet has gotten like too upset with me or anything. So
Cool.
pretty
That's
cool.
cool, man. That's cool. Well, we have 1 minute to go.
Okay.
And people are starting to arrive. I'm allowing them. And I think 7:15, we can start. So the show is all yours. I'll speak in Portuguese right now, right?
Okay.
Então, galera, primeiro, assim, uma ótima noite para vocês. Fico felizão de ver a galera por aqui. Enquanto tá chegando mais gente, até porque teve um atraso aqui, por conta de trânsito mesmo. Mas não se preocupem, a gente vai passar todo o conteúdo. Esse conteúdo também está sendo gravado, tá? E vai estar disponível na nossa página lá do Growth Labs. Então, se alguém tiver qualquer dúvida, fiquem à vontade para perguntar. A gente está aqui para tirar dúvidas, para falar mesmo sobre Growth Expansion, que é um baita assunto legal. E com esse mestre, esse fera, o papa do CS, o papa do Customer Success, Mr. Lincoln Murphy, ele pode continuar aí com a gente e passar tudo que for necessário. Ele tem muita coisa bacana para ensinar. Então, vamos lá, aproveitem qualquer coisa, por favor, fiquem à vontade para mandar mensagem aqui e também no bate-papo. Tem o ícone ali embaixo, bate-papo, é só escrever, tá? Aqui. E aí, fiquem à vontade, tá? Aproveitem o conteúdo, gente. Yeah, it's all yours.
Okay. Wow. So we're going to talk about expansion, how to get it, why it's important. I mean, I think a lot of times we have to start with why does this matter? You know, I mean, I think that's one of the most important things. Very often, and stop me as questions come in, or stop me if there's something, Palma, that you're like, wait, let's go a little bit deeper on that. But basically, I think it's really important to take a step back and examine why growth from your existing customers is so important. So I always say this, look, we want, at least I've never had anybody tell me that this isn't what they want. In general, we want our customers to stay longer. We want them to buy more from us, and we want them to go out and advocate for us or evangelize for us or whatever, right? Those are the three things that we want. But why do we want those? I mean, we who are in charge of making this stuff happen, we want that because that's our job. I've been hired to expand revenue from our customer base. That's why I want this. Okay, cool. Why were you hired to do that? Right? Like, let's take a step back and understand why it is you're doing this job. Why are you interested in this if you haven't really thought about it? And why is it important to think about it? Well, it's good to know why you're doing what you're doing. So what does getting our customers to buy more from us, what does that do? What does it do for the business? What does it do for the company? What does it do for the stakeholders, for the investors, for everybody who's involved in this, including you? What does it do for you? Well, it's always good to be working for a company that's becoming more valuable, even if you don't have a piece of it. I mean, let's be honest. It's nice when you have equity in a company, but that's not always the case. In fact, it's probably not the case. So you think, well, I don't really care if this company is becoming more valuable. It doesn't affect me. It does, because the company's becoming more valuable, or it's attracting more investment. You're going to have a stable place to work. It's more fun to be working in a company that's growing in value. They're spending more money on all the stuff that matters to you. They're paying you more. So, don't just say that doesn't matter to me because I don't have a piece of the action. The fact is, you work for a company, so we want to make sure that company is growing in all the different ways that we can. And where you are in charge of this with growing from your existing customers, it's good to know why that's important. Well, we essentially, we want to be able to, meaning just when we're as a company, we want to be able to drive the value of the company as high as we can, right? That's the goal, right? That means investors are going to get a better return on their investment. Again, it means the value of the company is going up, so we're going to benefit from it in some way. But what does that really mean? Well, there's some KPIs, some key performance indicators, metrics, however you want to look at it, that kind of figure in to the value of a company. So let's start with this whole idea of coming up with the value of a company. In the simplest terms, the value of a company is determined, and again, I'm simplifying here because as soon as you get into this, like in any detail, it becomes very complicated very quickly. But to simplify, you take the amount of revenue we are getting from our customers and you multiply that by something. What do you multiply it by? The multiplier. What's that? It's a made up number by the people who are trying to come up with the value of your company. So the investors. Somebody wants to put money into your company, they need to figure out what your company is worth. They're going to take the revenue that you have and they're going to say, based on that revenue, based on everything we know about this company, we think the company is worth 3 times the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, or 10 times, or 100 times, or isn't worth anything, right? So we need to know what goes into that multiplier. The reality is you can't know that. Your investors don't want you to know that. That's their secret sauce. If you knew what the multiplier was, then you could game the system, right? If I knew how you were valuing my company, I would fix all the KPIs and all the metrics that went into that and make you pay the most for that slice of the company that you're buying with your investment. So we don't know exactly, but we know that there are, in most cases, a handful of metrics that are going to figure into that valuation multiplier. So first of all, if we look at both sides of that formula, we're going to say revenue. So it doesn't really matter at this point what the multiplier is, but just knowing that if we're growing revenue, if the multiplier stays the same, in 6 months we have twice as much revenue, our company is worth twice as much. Again, assuming everything else is the same, right? So what do we get if we're looking to expand revenue from our existing customers? Well, we're looking at more revenue. And because it's with our existing customers, it's perhaps revenue that can come in faster. It's perhaps revenue that's truly predictable. It's revenue that is maybe growing at a much greater rate than revenue that's even coming in from new customers. This is what I call expansional. Hey, I made up a word. This is what I call exponential expansion. I'd like to shorten things, just kind of like Portuguese. Push a bunch, or at least the way Brazilians talk, just push a bunch of words together. So exponential expansion, right? This isn't linear growth. If you think about linear growth, if I go out and I bring in more and more new customers, that's really simply linear growth. Again, simplifying here, but if I can take my existing customers and figure out ways of growing the value of their account, so getting more revenue from them, and I can do that in 2 months, I can bump that up by 100%. And in 6 months, I can bump it up another 200%. And then in a year and a half, I can bump it up another 500%. Now I've grown the value of that one account exponentially. And if I do that for all of my customers, or a large portion of my customers, now we're really starting to see the exponential way of looking at growth versus just adding more revenue. And the reason I sort of look at it as exponential growth, and I separate that when I talk about it, I separate that from other growth, is because historically, when we've looked at trying to bring in more revenue from existing customers, it's always been just little bits here and there. Hey, can you add 30% to the value of these customers for us? And it's like 30%. Oh my God, how do I even do that? That was always sort of historically like a big challenge, when in reality, if we do this right, 30% is nothing. We should be looking at 100%, 200%, 1,000%. And that's not an exaggeration, and that's not hyperbole. That's the kind of stuff, if we do this right, we could be looking at certainly over the life cycle of the customer, but even in a relatively short amount of time. So right there, we take the revenue side of that valuation calculation, and we say, if we can just figure out a way to get our existing customers to pay us more, to buy more from us, to expand their relationship with us, then regardless of what the multiplier is, as long as it stays the same and doesn't go down, but if we're getting more revenue from our existing customers, as you'll see in a minute, it should be at least staying the same, if not going up. Assuming we can bring in more revenue from our customers, let's say twice as much, at some point, 6 months later, after we've done that, now our company is worth twice as much. Like that's great. So we're adding more revenue there. Now, but what about the multiplier? Like, how do we know what goes into that? Again, we can't know for sure. Our investors are not going to tell us, or if we're being acquired by another company, they're not going to say, here's exactly how we came up with the value of your company. Again, they don't want to sort of show their cards to anyone. They want to say, this is our secret sauce. We want to make sure that everybody, nobody knows our secret formula. But in general, you have, a handful of metrics that go into this, a handful of KPIs. One of those is going to be churn. So you're going to have churn, again, is one of those things where as soon as we start talking about, there's lots of different ways to look at it, but we'll just say logo churn or customer churn, which is literally just the number of customers that are leaving. And if that's high, and high is relative, I don't know what that is, right? Everybody wants to benchmark, but I don't know what we should be looking for there. I would just say you want to keep it as low as possible. And it's probably lower. The possible low bar on churn is probably lower than you think. A lot of times we blame the customers and blame the market, and we have high churn, or to have churn that's a lot higher than really it should be, because we're blaming everybody else except us. We're not fixing the things that are actually causing the churn. So as long as your churn is low, well, now that's good. If your churn is high relative to the market and relative to what your investors or acquiring company thinks it should be, as long as if it's high, your valuation multiplier is going to go down. If it's lower, so you have less churn, your valuation multiplier is going to go up. But then you get into things like net or negative churn. I call it net revenue retention. I want to look at it on the positive side. Basically, it's taking into consideration the customers that leave, but also any customers that stay but pay us less. So maybe, a customer wanted to cancel. We were able to save them with discounts. A customer downgraded their account, whatever. So now we get to this point where we have, if we say, I'll just tell you the calculation or the way that we come up with net revenue retention. We basically take a time frame. So let's say a month or a quarter. We'll say a quarter. You start that quarter with $1,000 in revenue, right? So we're not worried about customers at this point. We're just saying revenue. And then at the end of that quarter, you end up with $1,500 in revenue. Cool. So you had what, a 50% gain. So you had 150% net revenue retention. It's net. So it means it includes any customers that left and took all their revenue with them, any customers that stayed but paid less to do so, and then any customers who expanded their relationship with us, right? So net revenue retention. For a subscription business, that same sort of idea can be applied to a transactional business, but for a subscription business, net revenue retention is a really great metric to look at, because it's telling you just at a glance, we're either growing or we're shrinking. If we're growing, if we have greater than 100% net revenue retention, it means we could, in theory, turn off new customer acquisition and not just exist, but continue to grow. I say, why do that? Let's grow from our customers, and let's also go out and get as many new customers as long as they're a good fit, as long as they have success potential. Let's turn both of these on and get that two-pronged approach to growth. So net revenue retention is an incredible metric to look at. And that is something that absolutely, that almost without doubt is going to figure in heavily into the valuation multiplier for your business. And that's basically the metric that we're going to talk about when we talk about expansion, because it's what keeps us honest at a high level. But I say at a high level because it's really important to note that anything that's sort of net, you could be hiding things, and not intentionally necessarily, but you need to, let's say we've grown revenue 150%, or we had 150% net revenue retention. We grew it by 50%. Is that awesome? Yeah, unless we lost half our customers, and the customers that stayed are the ones that expanded so much that at the end of that time period, the calculation comes out and it looks good. But the fact is, we lost a bunch of customers. They might say, but that's okay because we still grew. Well, if those customers churned out too early and didn't pay back what was required, what we spent to acquire them in the first place, then they were not profitable. We lost money on them. And then you take into consideration all the other stuff that comes with churn, the negative market sentiment, customers that come in that have a goal that want to achieve that goal in the right way, so they achieve their both their required outcome and have their appropriate experience met. That's what customers want. When that doesn't happen, that's bad, and they want to leave, and they probably aren't going to leave on necessarily on good terms with you. So they might go out and leave bad reviews, or they won't. At least they won't go out and proactively advocate for you. They probably won't even do that if we ask, and they might go out proactively and say bad stuff about us, right? So that makes your sales cycle longer. That makes your customer acquisition cost higher, which then goes into that other metric that's going to figure into the value of your company, which is customer acquisition cost efficiency. I don't necessarily want to or need to or have to spend as little as possible to acquire a customer. The fallacy of pushing down your acquisition cost, I don't know where that comes from, except small businesses thinking small, entrepreneurs who don't want to be successful. Lots of, so the wrong mindset, scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset says spend as little as possible to acquire your customer because they might not stay very long, or they're not going to be profitable, or we can't really sell very much to them. We might not make much money off of them. That's scarcity mindset. You're getting in your own way. Successful customers, successful entrepreneurs, they have a different mindset. They'll say, how can I outspend my competition? Right? If you can spend more money than your competition, you win, period. Now, there's a problem. Just because you can outspend your competition doesn't mean you're gonna actually have a profitable business. So what do we need to do? Expansion. We need to be thinking about expansion from the very beginning. If I can acquire a customer and pay more for that customer than my competition, great. Now I've got them in the door. But now, if they never paid me anything more, it might take a year to pay that back. And I'm not going to get into, like what's a good payback period, because that is completely arbitrary and depends, if I were to say it, it's just arbitrary. It completely depends on your unique situation. But, and by the way, that whole 1/3 of customer lifetime value, whatever, is bullshit. Don't listen to that. It doesn't apply to most businesses, and I'm not sure it really applies to anybody. That was put out there by a VC a long time ago, like seriously, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, that said, if you are paying back your customer acquisition costs within 1/3 of the customer lifetime, so on a 3-year contract, it takes you a year to pay it back, come talk to us and we'll invest in you. Why? Because that's not very good, and we will invest resources to make that better. That's what they were saying. They weren't putting that out there as like a benchmark that you should strive for. Most companies, if it takes 1/3 of the customer lifetime to pay back the acquisition cost, the company will go bankrupt. So especially if you're a smaller, entrepreneur that's sort of bootstrapping or you don't have a lot of funding, please don't fall into that trap. Anyway, what we want to do is increase the efficiency with which we pay that back. So if it's going to take me a year to pay back that acquisition cost because I was able to outspend my competition, and again, I'm using this just as an example, that might not work. That might be bad. So what can I do? I can really understand when, I know where I'm going to meet my customer in terms of, what they need, in terms of their maturity, in terms of all this stuff. I know where I'm meeting them, and I know where they're going to go. And so I know that as soon as they get to a certain point with me, maybe past onboarding, they get to some sort of success milestone, they've gotten some value out of us. I know that at that point, I can upsell them, and I can expand our relationship. I can, this is what we're going to go into on the workshop. I'm not trying to be like, hey, come to the workshop and that's when we'll talk about this. I'll tell you whatever you want to know right now. But in terms of just simplifying this example, we basically say to this customer, hey, when you get to this point, when you achieve this success milestone, the most logical next step is to buy this service, to buy this other software, to buy these add-ons or this additional capacity or whatever it is. And it's at that point where we can expand the relationship. And if we take a step back and we understand our customers better than the customers understand themselves, in that 1 year that if we just let things sort of happen organically and our customers don't grow in that first year, it's going to take us that entire year to pay back what it costs to acquire them. But if we can increase the customer acquisition cost efficiency, so the efficiency with which we pay that back, we can do that. That's going to help us increase the value of our company. And we can do that by having a clear ascension path for our customers. When they first come in, we know exactly where they're going to go. And in that same 1 year period, not only are we going to be able to pay back their acquisition cost maybe in 3 months, because we're going to, at a couple of months, we're going to be able to upsell a large portion of those customers at least. But over that 1 year, maybe we can grow that account size by 5x. So now the payback period on what it costs to acquire them is like weeks. I mean, if you kind of just even everything out. So it's about, of course, being able to acquire the customers, in whatever way we need to. And that may mean outspending our competition, but then it's about making sure that we're getting as much value from those customers as we can while delivering as much value. And see, that's really the secret there. Are we doing things in a sustainable customer-centric way, or are we not? And that's also going to figure into when an investor is sort of doing their due diligence, they're going to look at things like churn rate, like expansion, because they're going to say, are these guys really being efficient with the money that they're investing in acquiring these customers? And if they are, then we want to invest money with these guys at a higher valuation. We're willing to do that, willing to pay more for that piece of the action. Because when we invest money into this business, it's going to be used in the most efficient way possible. If they don't see that you're using your money efficiently, then they might see that they could come in and basically make the same recommendations I'm making to you, only in a much, much more expensive way, because you're giving up a large portion of your business. They're not going to tell you what to do yet until they've secured that equity from you. And then they're going to make it more efficient. So they're going to do exactly what I'm telling you to do. So if you already are efficient, you're going to command a higher valuation from investors. There's a lot going on here, and I know that I'm speaking fast and everything, but we only have about an hour, and I just want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to hear this. And so please ask your questions, and Palma will look at those and see which ones are applicable and which are duplicates and whatever, and he'll start asking me these questions in a minute. But basically, what I wanted to do is say, look, why does this matter? Why does expansion matter? It matters because it has a direct impact on the value of the company. Don't lose sight of that. And this is going to help you evangelize this concept internally. It's going to help you make a case for why you need additional resources, why you need, whatever it is you need to be able to operationalize expansion, operationalize around the customer journey. That's the kind of stuff that you need to, you sometimes need to make a case for. And so knowing why we're doing what we're doing is really going to help. I'm just looking, I got a message. Okay. Anyway, just want to make sure you guys can still hear me and everything. So we're good. But basically, if we understand what's going on, like why we're doing this, then it helps everything else. As soon as we lose sight of that, then expansion just becomes another nice to have. It becomes another thing that we just kind of play around with and do in an ad hoc fashion, and it tends to not work very well, right? Or, and this is huge, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this, or we run into a situation that you often see with sort of traditional account management, which is we operationalize by basically coming up with a quota, saying, as I said earlier, we need to add 30% to these accounts in terms of revenue in the next 6 months, and then saying, go. How the hell am I supposed to do that? What do we even have to sell them? I had a company that I worked with that I can't remember. I think it was they wanted or they needed to add, and this is all relative. I mean, $500,000 in new revenue from existing customers, and for them that was a pretty substantial amount of revenue. $500,000 in new revenue, And it was necessary to do that in about the next 6 months. It was sometime in the summer, or sometimes in the middle of the year. And I think they wanted to have that done before the end of the year. So we're looking at about $500,000 in new revenue from their existing customers by the end of the year. So basically in a 6-month time period. My first question to them was, what do you have to sell them that would allow you to even come close to meeting that number? Now you might be thinking, oh, but we have services and we have products and we have affiliate programs and we have all this other stuff that we could tap into. Cool. This company didn't, because they sold an all-you-can-eat license to their customers. They literally had their customers pay them a pretty good amount, right? I mean, it wasn't, well, you don't know, I say right, but trust me, it was a pretty good amount for basically everything. So now, how do you upsell on that? How do you expand on that? You got to get really creative, because right then, when they were given that quota, when they were given that goal, they didn't have anything to expand on. So this is an example of pulling a number out of thin air and then forcing people, in this case, their customer success organization, they were not salespeople, sort of forcing them to go out and hard sell customers. But then, like I said, but on what? Like, we didn't even know what they were going to be selling. So it was stupid, and you shouldn't do that. Rather, we should understand what the customer's journey is, what makes logical sense to put in front of them based on their actual progress. And because we look at success milestones, we can actually say with a pretty good amount of certainty, this is the amount of revenue we should add in the next quarter, in the next year, from our existing customers based on our customers' actual progress. And when it's based on their actual progress, we really don't have to sell. That's what's really cool. There's a thing that I actually call it the effortless upsell. And it sounds hyperbolic and it sounds like a bunch of bullshit, but it's not. It's actually, if you follow my formula, if you do the things that I'm telling you here, the things that will go deep on the workshop, you basically end up having conversations about making the customer successful and not having sales conversations. It's truly amazing. So if you have an organization, or if you don't like to sell, maybe you've chosen, or maybe you've moved away from sales, or maybe you've chosen to just not be in sales because you don't like that stuff. This is how you get around that. You're still adding revenue. You're still expanding the relationship with the customer, but because it's all about the customer and it's all about their actual progress, these aren't sales conversations anymore. They're literally just conversations about adding something to their account. It's amazing, but it does require a mindset shift. It requires a different way of thinking about things. But like I said at the beginning, there's a mindset that's going to keep you, and this is something to think about just for your own, from a personal standpoint, your own sort of personal and professional life. There's a mindset that keeps you small and broke or poor, whatever, like all those. And by the way, I hate those words because they're so, people who say they're broke. Are you broken? I don't like that. But that scarcity mindset, that there's only a limited amount to go around, that I can't do this, or this is not something I think is I don't want to sell somebody on something, whatever. That mindset needs to go away. And instead, we need to be thinking about the big picture. We need to be thinking about abundance, putting our customers on that trajectory, that ascension path. And ironically, I think, because all of that sounds like, yeah, you're trying to hustle, you're trying to get as much money from your customers as possible. But ironically, this only works if it's in the customer's best interest. It's just acknowledging that at various points along the way, our customers will need this other thing. They'll need to consume more. They will need to expand their relationship with us. In fact, I want you to think about this. This is huge. What do we promise our customers when we're trying to sell them initially? So what does our marketing say? What do our salespeople, what do they say to the prospect? We tell the prospect, if you do business with us, you will be a better version of yourself, right? I mean, that's essentially what we're saying. If you do business with us, you're going to come out the other side a better version of yourself. Perhaps some of you have seen that that Mario from Super Mario Brothers, where it's like regular Mario and then he eats a mushroom or something, and then he like becomes Super Mario, right? The mushroom is us. But what if we actually deliver on that promise? Think about that. What if we actually deliver on the promise that if you do business with us, you will become a better version of yourself? See, a lot of companies do that. And maybe it's even in spite of their efforts, right? I know a lot of companies that do things poorly, and any success they have really does seem to be just in spite of their efforts. Imagine if they did things right, how amazingly successful they would be. Sometimes it's in spite of our efforts. And when it is in spite of our efforts, what happens is at some point, our customer does become a better version of themselves, a different version of themselves, an evolved version of themselves. But we didn't understand that because we were not prepared for it. We did not prepare them for it. We did not know what the most logical next step was. So what do? We got surprised when they churned out. And we say, or they say to me, they say, Lincoln, I don't get it. Our customers leave after about a year with us. Why? Nothing's changed. Yeah, man, nothing's changed with you, but your customers have evolved because you actually delivered on the promise that you made them. You helped them be successful. Companies that don't understand this will have a lot of churn at that point because they don't evolve with their customers. Customer-centric growth is understanding that as our customers evolve, their relationship with us should evolve and grow as well. So I know that when you hit this success milestone, that things have changed for you. You're a different company now. You have new needs. Maybe it's a different appropriate experience, but maybe also it's different goals. And maybe along with that different appropriate experience and new goals, maybe now you need other services. Maybe now you need other products. Maybe now you need stuff that my partners sell. And I can put that in front of you, not to try to get as much as I can out of it, but because I recognize that you are now evolved. You know, this is going to happen, whether you acknowledge it or not. So you can say, I don't want to do that and let the customer leave. Or you can say, yeah, heck yeah, I want to be there with them as they evolve and grow. So that's that mindset shift. And this goes back to what I said earlier about, you know, people that don't want to be salespeople. How do we get them out of that mindset? Well, you don't have to get them out of the mindset of not being salespeople, but we do have to give them the mindset that our customers are evolving. And there are things that we can put in front of our customers at the right time when they need it, that they can take advantage of because they have evolved. And in response to that, we're going to get more revenue. I'm not trying to force product or service onto our customers. I'm recognizing when they need it. And this may be the difference between that, you know, having exponential growth or not, or it may be the difference between having that growth happen sooner versus a long time down the road. If I know at what point you will have evolved, I can start putting these things in front of you. If I don't, we might not have a conversation about this, or we might not talk about this additional product or this, you know, these other things that you might need until renewal time at, you know, a year after you signed up, or just at some point down the road. When in fact, though, you actually needed it 3 months in, but I didn't recognize that. So I think I'll stop just talking at you and let's take some questions. But I hope that kind of got you thinking, kind of got the gears turning, your mind moving in the right direction. Palma, we got any questions?
Hey, Lincoln, I've got none so far. I think people are kind of shy right now, but let's ask. Vocês têm perguntas, pessoal, sobre o que o Lincoln falou até agora? Tem alguma dúvida? Alguma coisa não ficou clara?
Now's your chance.
Fiquem à vontade para perguntar. Bom, eu tenho uma dúvida para você, Lincoln, aproveitando aqui. Você estava falando sobre... Pô, eu estou falando português, né? Olha que nóia. Lincoln, I was talking to you in Portuguese, can you believe it? I didn't didn't even perceive it. You were talking about some companies that are not ready to grow, like they sold everything, so they cannot really expand, right?
Yep.
What a company like that can do? Like, what can they make up to, to make something happen?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get creative. So one of the things we'll do in the workshop on Saturday is, so one of the exercises we'll do is actually take an inventory of everything that we could possibly sell. That's going to be everything from products that you have. It could be products that you might need, or add-ons, or additional capacity, things like that that we could add on. Services, a lot of times contracts that are written and then all you can eat fashion don't include services. So, for some SaaS companies, they want to reduce the amount of what we call attachment rate of non-recurring revenue. So services may not be something that you want to include. But, what I say is come up with all the different things that you could potentially sell. Don't edit, just list those out. And then you can go back and figure out what's possible based on the current reality on the ground. So, additional products, additions to your product, services, professional services, done for you services that maybe you work with partners on. So one company that I'm working with does social media marketing. And one of the reasons they found that their customers were not expanding, but also some of them were leaving, was because those customers didn't have any internal resources to do the creatives and all this other, not just creatives. This company handled a lot of that, but landing pages and things like that were sort of outside the scope of what the social media company was able to do. And if the companies weren't doing that, they weren't going to be successful as clients of the social media management company. So they found partners to be able to offload work to, and they did a rev share. Eventually, they'll bring those in-house. So they actually are doing services in-house for their clients. They figured out that their clients had more money than they had time or other resources inside, and so they were able to take advantage of that knowledge and present something to their customers that was exactly what the customers needed. So now if they're having a save call with a customer that's about to leave, a lot of those save calls aren't just ending in a save, they're ending in expansion, which is incredible. Affiliate stuff. So what I mean by that is, so as I just said, like, partner services, but also products, things from other companies that you could also sell. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that you could potentially sell to your customers. So you have to sit down and figure out what that is. And then, like I said, then you can be like, okay, some of these are things we don't have yet. Some of these won't work with our business model. Fine, but edit that out. You have to get creative. And with the company that I was working with, what they did a couple of things. One, at renewal, they redid their contracts, because that was just not a good thing really for anybody. There were a lot of customers that were paying for way too much. And so this would actually allow, I mean, it kind of goes against what we're talking about here, but actually ultimately it's about being customer centric. They could go back to those customers and sort of downsize those customers into something that works, and then knowing that they could probably eventually get them back where they are and beyond, because now they're moving into that model that isn't all you can eat. And then they also went through this process of like, what else can we sell, and what does our contract cover, and what does our contract not cover? And they ended up with professional services, including custom development and things like that. They were not afraid of adding revenue of any kind, whatever it takes. They didn't have investors that were like, keep your attachment rate below 10%, meaning, don't have more than 10% of your revenue coming from non-recurring revenue. They didn't care about that. Just make us money was kind of the mandate. So you have to get creative. I love this expansion stuff because, oh my God, you get to be super creative. you really get to know your customer, which for me is amazing because you really get to spend time, and then you get to literally increase the value of the company. You know, if you're ever feeling marginalized or not important in your role, and you start helping with expansion, you will quickly feel very important in the company. So this is also good professionally, but also mentally for you in the work that you're doing. Cool?
Perfect, perfect. Awesome, Lindsay. And I have another one here. Actually, two questions which looks like the same from Ana Carolina and Gisele. And basically what they're asking right here is, how the hell how the hell do you hold marketing and sales teams to not sell to people that are not fit, which are going to become a churn in the future?
I'm leaving. This is okay. This is absolutely critical to expansion. We customers that are a bad fit, well, they're eventually going to leave, but while they're there, they're certainly not going to expand. So I mean, this is very specific to this topic, even though it's also just a general customer success or customer driven growth question, or really it's about making the company successful and keeping the sanity of the people that work in the company. Right. Okay. So we have to be real about some things. If you are a customer success practitioner, so you're customer success manager, somebody that's sort of on the front line, you're not a manager, you're not a VP or CCO, sort of sitting up at the same level as your CEO, it's going to be very difficult for you to go tell sales to not close a particular type of customer. But I have some ideas for you. But the main thing is what we have to understand how stuff works. So again, I said earlier, take a step back and be like, why are we even doing this? Well, we're doing this to increase the value of the company. So when we talk about aligning sales and marketing and everybody else around this idea of success potential or a good fit customer, or conversely, what a bad fit customer looks like, right, we have to know, like, how does this stuff actually work? So at the very least, we should understand marketing is out there trying to get people's attention and trying to fill the top of the funnel with, or somewhere in the funnel, but they're trying to bring people in, yeah, that sales can work, basically, right? We're trying to bring leads in, and then sales is going to take those leads and work them. Now, there's obviously all sorts of different situations where sales, either themselves, the salespeople, or through BDAs or SDRs or whatever, are out prospecting. But essentially, marketing is out there trying to make enough noise to fill the funnel with 5 times as many leads as we need, because our close rate for a really good salesperson is 20%, right? There is your predictable revenue, right? That's how Aaron Ross came up with predictable revenue. It's just math. Doesn't take into consideration the actual work that has to be done. It's a whole nother story. But anyway, no, I mean, it's all good, but that's predictable revenue. So how is marketing measured? Marketing is measured on, and of course it varies, but essentially MQLs or SQLs or something like that. Marketing qualified leads or sales qualified leads. We'll say SQLs because that makes this easier. What is an SQL? An SQL is basically, and we're not talking about the query language, it's basically where sales says, hey, that lead that you brought in marketing, it's good. Hey, boom. Boom. So that's what it is. So if I go to marketing and I say, hey guys, stop bringing in customers, so what they're going to hear, stop bringing in customers, stop bringing in leads. You're now saying to them, do something that's not going to allow me to hit my number, right? That's what they're going to hear. So then sales, what is sales job? Sales job is to take those leads and make them customers. That's it. So sales is measured, salespeople are measured very easily. They're measured on, I mean, there may be other things, but essentially number of deals closed, right? Could be revenue, could be other things, but just to keep it simple. So can we convert that SQL to a customer? So it's percentage of that, or it's number, whatever, it's a hard number. If you go to sales and you say, hey, stop closing bad fit customers, they hear, you want to take money out of my pocket? You want me to not be in the President's Club, not get my Rolex, not go to Fortaleza, or I don't know where they go here. In Estados Unidos, we go to Mexico, go to Cancun, right? That's where Cancun is a nightmare because it's all sales bros, right? It's all people that are in the President's Club. So my point is, you have to understand how these other departments and other parts of the company work, so we can use that knowledge to get them to do what we want them to do. In customer success, or whoever is working with the customer, once they become a customer, you guys know so much more about the customer than any other part of the business. So take that knowledge. So if you're an individual contributor, push that knowledge up through your leaders. And by the way, if you can't do that, then you could go directly to marketing, because this is all good. This is all a good thing. But work your channels so that you're not stepping on toes. And see, I don't have to worry about stepping on toes. You do. So know how things work inside of your company. But we want to take that knowledge of our customers in a positive way, push that up through our VP. Maybe it goes to the CEO, or it goes to the CCO, and it goes over to the marketing, CMO, and it goes to the person in charge of sales, or to a chief revenue officer who dispenses this to sales and marketing. What we're going to share with them are the positive things. Hey, this is what our best customer looks like. These are the customers that are bringing in the most revenue, bringing in the most referrals. They're out there advocating for us. They're expanding. They're finding the most success. Salespeople, by the way, are not just absolutely horrible, like robot animals that just have, they just do one thing. Really good salespeople would actually like their customer to be successful. It's just sort of not on their plate to worry about it, right? I mean, so they're not actually, most of them are not really trying to bring in bad fit customers. They're kind of taking the customer's word for it. They have this emotional bond. We're good. Okay, we're good. Boom. Then they're on to the next one, right? That's what we want out of salespeople to a certain extent. We want them to have that sort of mentality of just do whatever, go, 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 go. It takes a special kind of person to be in sales. Maybe it's a special kind of person we don't want to spend much time with, but that's okay. That's why we hire them, though. So we have to, again, know how they operate, what motivates them. So I take this good news, this good news package, what our best customers look like, their characteristics, their use cases, how they talk about us, how they talk about what they do. And we go to sales and we go to marketing. Maybe we mix the message up a little bit, for each of those audiences, but we basically say, hey, we spend a lot of time with our customers. This is what we're seeing. Maybe this will help you focus on bringing in, or, better target customers. So marketing, this will help you better, you'll be able to use the right language, things that will help you resonate. And with sales, same thing, but this will help you close more deals. And as soon as you help marketing and sales hit their numbers, so as soon as you help a salesperson close a deal because of that intel you gave them, you're their best friend. As soon as you help marketing hit their numbers, you become a trusted advisor internally. Okay. Now you can go back and say, here's the good news package. By the way, this kind of customer, man, they are just not finding any success. And I'll tell you what, they're not leaving good reviews for us, making your job harder. Let's really try to not, I think it would be good. I think it would make your job easier because, whatever, if we stop bringing in customers like this. So good news, little bit of bad news, but start with just good news. Get them to trust you, and then you can start. So whether you're a leader or whether you're an individual contributor, that's how you need to be working with sales and marketing. It takes time, but it shouldn't take that much time. I mean, you could do it before the end of the year. You could have sales and marketing on your side totally, and you basically stop bringing in bad fit customers if you created and sort of operationalized this process of that feedback loop. Now, I also talk about things like because it's true. So you could get your leaders, if you're not a leader, you could get your leaders to do this as well. And essentially, you could say to sales, working bad fit customers takes longer. I posted something on LinkedIn, it's probably been several months now, but it got a lot of interesting reaction because I basically said, show this to your salespeople, or if you're a salesperson, pay attention to this because you're working harder for less money. Wait, what? Because that's, so if you went to a salesperson or if your leader, your CCO went to the CRO and said, I think our salespeople are working harder for less money, do you think people would pay attention? You think especially the individual salespeople would pay attention to that? Hell yeah. So when I do a sales kickoff, I always say that. I say, if you don't listen to me today, what I'm going to talk about, you're going to end up working a lot harder for a lot less money. And why is that? Because if we're bringing in good fit customers, if we're talking to customers that have success potential, the sales cycle, and you can look at your own data and figure this out. Go through and look at, figure out what your success potential is. Go back and apply that to your existing customer base. Go back and look at how long it took to close them. And I can almost guarantee you the customers that took the longest to close don't have success potential. They're your bad fit customers. Why? Because it takes longer to convince people that this is the right fit for them. They know it's not the right fit, and you know it's not the right fit. So it just takes longer.
Perfect.
So go work with good fit customers. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I mean, not, just to kind of wander around, but basically get on their good side, get their trust. Then you can start passing some of the negative, some of the stuff that might be perceived as negative. But understand how stuff works in your company. Take everything I just said as like just an example, but go figure out for yourself how this stuff works in your unique situation, and then work around it. I had somebody say to me once, "Oh, so you mean customer success, the salespeople, and customer success, the marketing people?" I'm like, yeah, man, you got it. Because what do we do with our customers? We figure out what drives them, and we figure out how to motivate them based on that goal. Do that with everybody else. Do that with everybody else in your life. You'll probably get a lot further. Anyway.
Yeah. I heard what you said about. Can you hear me? Yeah. I heard what you said about the cost of acquisition being like a way to, I don't know, to look down instead of looking further. But at the same time, don't you think that we could use something like that, saying like to the sales and marketing teams that the cost of acquisition would be smaller and they would have more money to get more good people, good fits. The sales is going to be easier, way easier because they're ready. They're the right moment, right?
Right. So that all of this kind of flows together. So your customer acquisition cost. So you can spend more to acquire the customer, but you may not have to, because if you're doing all this other stuff right, you're talking to the right customers, you're targeting the right customers. You don't have any negative stuff in the marketplace weighing you down. Remember, you churn and burn customers. They're going to go out and talk shit about you, right? So if we have only good stuff out there, and we're constantly getting even more good stuff because we have operationalized advocacy, right? We have a program where we're constantly getting things like testimonials from our customers and reviews, and we're putting that out there. That's part of their journey. And now we're making this whole thing. I call customer advocacy business lube, because it just makes things so smooth, right? It's a weird word, may not translate so well into Portuguese, but in the United States, it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
anyway,
just using.
But anyway, bottom line is, you're right. I mean, all of this stuff flows together. Your customer acquisition cost is more efficient. That is going to be absolutely interesting to sales and marketing, the leadership, right? So we have to worry about how sales and marketing work in your company, how they're measured at an individual contributor level, or at least at an operation level, how they're measured at an executive level. How do I get their attention? How do I get the VP of sales to pay attention to what I want them to pay attention to? I have to understand what drives their behavior. So just think about, you have a complex customer and you have multiple people, multiple personas within that customer. We need to figure out how to work with each of those. Guess
it's
what? There's multiple personas inside your company.
Yeah, it's a lot like sales as well. So
totally. It's once you start thinking about it like this, it changes everything.
Yeah, perfect, man. So
all right, cool.
I think that's it. We are we started at 8:10, 7:10. We're finishing at 8:10, and we have everyone that's interested to know more here. I have an announcement as well, so I'm going to speak in Portuguese right now, if you don't mind.
No.
Try to catch it. See if you understand, right? Então, galera, para o pessoal que assistiu, que prestou atenção agora nesse papo aqui do Lincoln, nesse webinar do Lincoln, e se interessou, achou bacana, acho que é super, super interessante você dar uma olhadinha. Eu vou passar um link aqui para vocês, tá? Eu vou jogar lá naquele grupo que a gente colocou. Na verdade, está acontecendo nesse sábado, tá? Vai ser das 9 às 19, um dia inteiro de imersão em Growth Expansion, um dia inteiro de imersão, é um workshop com o Lincoln Murphy. Eu vou estar lá também, junto com o meu sócio, o Felipe Xavier, e a gente vai participar só no finzinho ali, vai ter um painel junto com o Lincoln, onde a gente vai falar também sobre as dúvidas que aconteceram, sobre aquilo que tem de necessidade no dia. A gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre algumas coisas também que acontecem no nosso dia a dia, vai poder conversar a respeito disso, sobre essa integração de growth com o CS e onde a gente vê crescimento de verdade nas empresas, e acho que isso pode ser bacana para muita gente. Se você está assistindo, achou legal, achou bacana o assunto, tem interesse em participar, se eu não me engano, devem ter mais umas 3 vagas só lá, então corre, tá? A gente tem um cupom de desconto que eu vou jogar lá, dentro do grupo também, 35%. E, enfim, é isso, gente. Quem tiver interesse, estamos aí. Brigadaço pela atenção de todos. Eu espero que a gente volte a se ver. Algumas das pessoas eu já sei que a gente vai se ver aí no sábado. Espero ver as outras também. So, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. And did you get anything from my speech right now? Can you understand something at all?
I think we're making a pretty good offer. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. It'll be awesome. Yeah, we're going to spend the day, and you're going to come out of that with a growth plan in place, and really even more important, knowing what to do with it when you leave. So I'm super excited about it. Can't wait to be there. Thanks for putting this together, Palma. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for being here, and thanks for listening. And I hope it helped. Whether you come on Saturday or not, but I hope you do. I hope this got your mind moving in the right direction. Yeah. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Thanks a million, then, Lincoln. I'll say goodbye to everyone, but I'd like to have just a chat with you on Instagram right now for a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, Mr. Lincoln. So sure. I invite you to a live here, right?
Okay.
If you guys want to stay, you can stay. Or you can go to Instagram as well. We were about actually to do this Instagram live at the same time, but we didn't because, well, we didn't. And the thing is, well, let's see. I'm getting online right now. And the thing is, we want so much, so badly, that everyone knows about growth expansion, which is something that as simple that it could look when you look from outside, from the outside. When you start to get that on your company, you see that it's not that easy. It's not that simple. It's something that you have to do with more than mindset. You have to have a framework for that.
Yep.
And that's mandatory, right?
Yeah, I mean, you start with the mindset and then you operationalize from there.
Yeah.
You know, that's the main thing. So we covered the mindset today. We'll cover the operationalization on Saturday. But yeah, it's
definitely. All right. So
just like anything, you take it serious, you know.
Yeah. Perfect, man. So I'm going to Instagram. I'm inviting you to do the same, right? And we are gonna finish it right here. All the best, guys. Talk to you very, very soon, right? My Instagram is at _Palma, and Lincoln's Instagram is at Lincoln Murphy, right?
Yep.
That's it. Thanks a million,
Okay.
guys. All the best. Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.